My mom left a voicemail. "You're out. Don't come back. We're moving forward without you." I texted back, noted. Then I withdrew my authorization from the family trust, flagged their shared bank account, and removed my name from the real estate deal I had funded. By the next morning, there were 79 missed calls and a message from their lawyer that read, "We have a serious problem." I laughed loudly and replied. At that moment, I was ready to erase them from my life completely. No hesitation, no regret. The way they handled it, so cold, so casual, made it nearly impossible to control myself. It was like they'd been waiting for the perfect excuse to get rid of me, and now that they had it, they didn't even try to fake compassion. I was at work when the voicemail came through, just 10 seconds long. My mother's voice flat, not angry, not emotional, just finished. "You're out. Don't come back. We'll live without you." I played it twice to make sure I heard it right. She didn't say my name. She didn't say why. Just those words like they'd been rehearsed. I didn't bother calling back. I knew that tone. I knew when something was final. So I replied with 2 words of my own. "Got it." Then I went to work. The first thing I did was log into the trust account. I was the one who set it up after all. They didn't understand how it worked. They just knew it existed and that I told them it was for the family's future. I revoked my consent. That trust couldn't operate without my signature. All their plans, future investments, tax shelters, even the emergency access clause were frozen in an instant. Next came the joint account. It was meant for emergencies, to help my parents if something happened, like when my dad broke his wrist on the job last year. Lately, though, I'd noticed grocery runs, online shopping, even restaurant charges. I shut it down completely and locked it with 2-factor authentication tied to my personal email. The balance dropped to 0. That was my money anyway. Then I pulled out of the real estate deal. We were in escrow on a small 2-story just outside of Portland. My name, my credit, my down payment. They wanted a place to retire, and I agreed to help them buy it on the condition that it would be in my name until they could pay their share. I called the agent and had my name removed from the agreement. She was shocked, but I didn't explain. No one gets explanations when they send a 10-word exile over voicemail. By the time I got home, it was done. My name was off everything. I expected some fallout, maybe a few angry texts. What I didn't expect was to wake up to 79 missed calls. My phone buzzed nonstop the moment I turned it on. The first call was from Dad, then Mom, then a string of unknown numbers and 1 voicemail from their lawyer. "We have a serious problem. Please call me back." I didn't. I stood in my kitchen and laughed. It wasn't bitter. It wasn't forced. It was relief. For once, they had a problem that I didn't have to solve. Around noon, the text started from Mom. "We didn't mean it like that. From Dad, it was just a misunderstanding. Let's talk." From my sister, nothing. That silence from her said more than anything. I knew it wasn't a coincidence. She had been dropping hints for weeks, talking about how we should streamline things and simplify the ownership of the house. She'd always been good at putting things in a way that made her sound helpful. That was her thing. Get close, act innocent, manipulate. I used to defend her even when she didn't deserve it, but now I started connecting the dots. The new tension at home hadn't come out of nowhere. It had a source, and I had a sinking feeling I was staring right at it. She had always been jealous of how much trust our parents placed in me. I handled the money, the logistics, the plans. She was always decorative around, but not involved until now. Now she had them convinced I was the problem. And whatever she told them must have been serious enough to make them throw me out without a conversation. But she underestimated one thing. I don't come back when I'm thrown out. I come back when I want to burn it all down. The silence didn't bother me. In fact, I welcomed it. After everything they said, or didn't say, I figured we all needed space. They to panic, me to think. I didn't answer their calls. I didn't open their texts. I didn't even listen to the rest of the voicemails piling up. I waited. I wanted to see how long it would take before desperation started leaking through their calm front. It took 3 days. That morning, my phone lit up with an alert from the building's security. My dad was at the front gate. He had no reason to be there. I watched him through the camera feed. He didn't try calling me. He just stood there, shifting his weight, checking his phone, then looking up like maybe I'd appear in a window. He waited for almost 10 minutes. I didn't buzz him in. Later that night, I found a folded note taped to my door. It was from my mom. Her handwriting was unmistakable, neat and slanted like she was still in Catholic school. The note didn't say much. A lot of vague apologies. A few lines like, "We didn't mean to hurt you, and please don't make any decisions you can't undo." I read it once and dropped it in the trash. No explanation, no accountability, just more soft language designed to pull me back in. Still nothing from my sister. I didn't expect her to reach out. She was probably busy celebrating what she thought was a win. She'd managed to push me out of the trust, the house, the family dynamic, and she'd done it quietly without confrontation. That was her style. Behind the scenes, sabotage dressed up as helpfulness. I decided it was time to make a move. I called the real estate agent we'd been working with. She answered immediately, cheerful at first, but her tone shifted the second I asked her to send a formal withdrawal notice to my parents. She hesitated, said she didn't want to get in the middle of a family conflict. "You're not in the middle," I told her. "You're a paper trail." She sent the email. I didn't need to see their reaction. I imagined it well enough. The cold shock of seeing something in writing. Something irreversible. It was one thing to ignore a voicemail or a text. It was another to receive a legal notice saying your son had officially backed out of the one thing keeping your finances above water. The next morning, my mom tried calling again 6 times, all unanswered. By the afternoon, their lawyer emailed me. Just one line stood out. "There's more to this than you think." I sat with that for a while. More to this. So I waited. That night, my sister finally broke her silence. She texted me a single sentence. "I hope you're proud of what you've done." I stared at it. No punctuation, just enough venom to confirm what I already knew. She had been behind everything, and now that things weren't going the way she'd expected, she was starting to lose grip. She thought I'd come crawling back or blowing up with rage. What she didn't understand was that I had no intention of coming back at all, not until the damage was complete. The next day, I ran into one of my dad's old friends at a gas station. We hadn't spoken in over a year. He smiled, asked about the house, then casually dropped a line that stuck with me. "I heard you pulled out of the deal because you couldn't handle the financial pressure. Rough stuff." I smiled. Didn't correct him, but in my head it clicked. She was already spreading her version of events. That's when I called our old accountant. The one we used before my sister pushed us to switch to someone younger, trendier, more proactive. I set up a meeting and showed him the trust paperwork I still had copies of. He remembered every detail. When I asked what could sabotage the trust from the inside without being obvious, he gave me a cautious look, said he didn't want to get involved, but then he offered one hint. If someone gave the wrong kind of information to your parents and made it seem like it came from you, that could easily tilt everything. That was all I needed to hear. Now I had a direction. She'd been playing puppet master, feeding them lies, stirring up paranoia, maybe even forging a few details, all to get me out of the way. But what she didn't realize was that the minute she made me an enemy, she stopped being safe. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need revenge. Not yet. I just needed to wait for the perfect moment to make her own story fall apart in front of them. I didn't have to dig long. The cracks started to show faster than I expected. First came a call from the new accountant. Well, their accountant now. He left a voicemail asking if I could clarify a few discrepancies in the trust paperwork and bank activity. I hadn't spoken to this guy once before. Why would I need to clarify anything? I didn't call him back. Instead, I forwarded the message to my old accountant. He called me within the hour. "Sounds like someone tried to amend the trust," he said. "Without my signature?" I asked. "That's the part that doesn't make sense. He couldn't confirm who had initiated the changes, but it was obvious someone had attempted to push through modifications under the radar, someone who didn't understand that despite all the emotional mess, my legal authority hadn't disappeared just because I went quiet. The moment he said that, I knew who it was. I knew she tried to step into the role I built. I just didn't expect her to do it so carelessly. It got better. The next week, I went to lunch with a cousin I barely talked to. She messaged me out of the blue saying she'd heard something odd and wanted to run it by me. She didn't know the details, just that my sister had been telling relatives that I was cutting off the family out of greed, that I didn't want to share anything, and that I'd always been controlling. I laughed. She used the word controlling because it sounded dirty. She knew people would believe it. That was the trick. You don't accuse someone of anything too extreme, just enough to change the story. But people talk. They compare stories, and things started to unravel when she made a mistake. She told one version to my uncle, another to my cousin. Slightly different timelines, different motivations, same target, me. I didn't say anything publicly. I didn't start a family group chat war. I waited. Then came the moment I didn't expect, but couldn't have planned better. An email from the real estate agent. She'd accidentally CC me on a reply to my sister. My sister had apparently contacted her, trying to see if the property could still be salvaged without me on the contract, and casually implied I'd pulled out due to mental instability. That's when something in me snapped. Mental instability. That's how she was framing it. She was trying to discredit me to the one person who could confirm how much I'd put into that house, the one person who knew I was the reason the deal was even possible. I replied directly to the agent, copied my lawyer, and attached proof of all payments I made toward the deal, including a forwarded email from months earlier showing that the whole thing was my idea to begin with. The agent replied within an hour, her tone stiff and professional now. She thanked me for the clarification and said she would not be engaging in any further non-transactional communication with my sister. I knew what would happen next. And I was right. That night, my phone rang. Mom again. I let it go to voicemail. Then Dad. Then finally, my sister. I picked up. She jumped right in. Accused me of trying to destroy everything and playing the victim just because she asked a few questions. I let her rant. Then I asked one thing. Why did you lie about me to the real estate agent? Silence. Then she hung up. That was the first real crack. The one I could use. I didn't know yet what exactly she told our parents, but it had to be something personal, something believable, something that made them turn on me without a second thought. I just had to get them to say it out loud. And then I'd burn it down. It happened sooner than I thought. The following Sunday, my mom called again. I let it ring. Then I saw a text. Please, just give us 5 minutes. No accusations, no yelling. 5 minutes. That was all I needed. I called back. They were on speaker. I could hear the tension before anyone spoke. My dad started fumbling through a half-prepared statement about how things got out of hand. My mom cut in, saying they never wanted to hurt me, that they were just reacting to what they were told. That was my opening. Told by who? I asked. Silence. Then my dad cleared his throat. Your sister said you were planning to take full control of everything, that you were trying to leave us with nothing, that you said we were dragging you down. I couldn't even react. I was too stunned at how specific and stupid that lie was. I kept my voice calm. When did I say that? Your mom hesitated. She said you told her a few weeks ago, in the car after that argument at dinner. There had never been a car ride. There had never even been an argument at that dinner. We'd eaten in awkward silence and left in separate cars. It was such a clear, dumb fabrication that I almost laughed. Instead, I asked, did it ever occur to you to ask me? They didn't respond. She also told us you'd already met with a lawyer about cutting us out of the trust, my dad added, that you wanted her to take over once we were pushed out. That's when I knew she hadn't just twisted the truth. She'd reversed it. She took everything she was doing behind the scenes and pinned it on me, and they bought it because it was easier to believe their son turned greedy than admit their daughter was manipulating them for a bigger slice. I didn't yell. I didn't explain. I said, "Meet me tomorrow. All of you. No excuses. I'll bring the documents. You bring the lies." They agreed. The next evening, we sat at their dining room table. I had a folder with bank statements, email printouts, and the forwarded message from the real estate agent where my sister casually implied I was mentally unstable. She sat across from me, arms crossed, defiant, like this was still her stage. I started with the agent's email, then the payments I made, then the text she'd sent to relatives. Each time I laid something down, I didn't speak. I let the words do the work. My mom stared at the table. My dad kept glancing at her like she might save the moment. Then I finished with the last document. A forwarded message from our old accountant confirming that a recent attempt had been made to alter the trust by someone pretending to have joint authority. That was the final straw. My sister looked like she wanted to speak, but for once she didn't know what to say. I stood up. "You wanted me out. Congratulations. Now you're out." I turned to my parents. "She lied, and you let her. You believed her, because it was easier than talking to me." No one argued. My mom finally spoke, her voice quiet. "We didn't know. You didn't ask," I said, and walked out. 2 days later, I got a text from my dad. Just one sentence. "We've removed her from the trust." Then from my mom. "We were wrong. Please come back." I didn't reply right away. Letting her twist the knife had taken planning, but making them see it had taken patience. And now that the spell was broken, I wasn't finished yet, because forgiveness doesn't cancel consequences. 3 days after they removed her from the trust, my sister showed up at my office. I didn't know how she found the address. I moved locations a year ago and hadn't told anyone. Maybe she dug through old emails. Or maybe she followed me. Either way, she stood in the lobby like nothing had happened, like she had a right to be there. She asked for 10 minutes. I gave her 5. She walked in smiling, all fake calm, as if this was just some silly misunderstanding between siblings. She said she understood now that things got a little out of hand and that our parents had overreacted. She never admitted to lying. She danced around it, blamed confusion, stress, emotions. Then she got to the point. She wanted to make things right, not with me, with the business. She actually believed she could still be part of the family business now that she was officially out of the trust. She asked if I'd consider giving her a small role. She even said, "It'll show Mom and Dad that we're still strong as a family." I almost laughed. I stood up, walked to the file cabinet, and pulled out a folder I hadn't touched in months. It was an old draft of a business proposal she had once begged me to look at, some flaky pitch for a lifestyle brand she thought would go viral. She'd asked for funding. I'd said no. I handed her the folder and said, "Start your own." She flipped through the pages, confused. Then she looked at me, finally realizing this wasn't a detour. This was a dead end. "You think you're punishing me?" she asked. "No," I said. "Not yet." She stormed out. I didn't stop her. That evening, I called the accountant again, asked him how long it would take to formally transfer controlling interest in the business accounts away from the family collectively into a 2-person structure, me and my dad. No loopholes, no access for anyone else. He said it could be done by the end of the week. I waited for the paperwork to finalize. Then I made a move no one saw coming. I called my parents and asked them to meet me, just us. We sat down over dinner, and I told them the full extent of what I had uncovered. Emails, messages, the fake timeline, the forged intent to alter the trust. I laid it all out, and then I said something they didn't expect. I'm willing to bring everything back, the trust, the house, the joint ownership, but only if she's completely cut off. My mom looked uneasy. My dad didn't. He just said, "Done." And with that, it was official. That same week, I reinserted my name into the real estate deal. The agent was surprised, but pleased. Financing went through quickly this time. My credit, my assets, my control. I didn't tell my sister. Instead, I let her find out from the public property records. She sent one text the next morning. You stole it from me." I didn't answer. Later that afternoon, her best friend, someone I'd known for years, sent me a message. Just one line. "She's been trying to get a loan. No one will co-sign." I smiled. The house she wanted to take from me, mine again. The trust she tried to hijack, rebuilt without her. The business she tried to get in on, sealed off permanently, and no one was coming to save her. Not this time. 3 quiet weeks, not a word from her. After everything, after the lies, the manipulation, the smear campaign, my sister disappeared into silence. I expected another move, maybe some legal threat or another behind-the-scenes attempt to twist the narrative, but there was nothing, not even a fake apology. She was out of options. Meanwhile, my parents and I were slowly repairing what was left. We started with small things, coffee on Sundays, helping them sort through their moving paperwork, conversations about the past without flinching away from it. They stopped defending her, not because I asked them to, but because they saw it all now, clearly, without filters or excuses. One night, my mom brought out the old folder with the original real estate agreement. She asked if I'd consider restoring the original plan with me, her, and my dad sharing ownership of the new house. I didn't say yes right away. Instead, I drew up a new structure, full ownership under my name, with a written notarized agreement granting them full living rights. No expiration, no rent, no strings. If something happened to me, a legal clause would allow them to remain without any threat of the property being contested. No one, especially not my sister, could ever touch it. They agreed without hesitation. It wasn't just the house now. It was a reset. The next week, I walked into the title office, signed the revised documents, and saw my name back where it should have been. The house was ours again, mine to secure, theirs to live in. She wasn't just out. She was legally locked out of everything. The trust was finalized 2 days later. It now included only me and my parents. The clauses were ironclad. Any attempt to interfere would trigger an automatic freeze and full audit. Our accountant made sure of that. Then came the voicemail from a blocked number. I let it go. When I checked it later, her voice was tired, smaller than I remembered. "I'm sorry things turned out like this," she said. "You've made your point. I just hope someday you can be mature enough to move on." I deleted it. There was nothing to move on from. I had nothing to prove to her. She took her shot, tried to get me out of the picture, and now she was outside looking in. My dad later told me she called him too, said she had a new business idea and needed money to start over. She didn't ask to come back into the family, just for support. He told her no. There was no long explanation, no dramatic pause, just no. That was the first time in my life I saw him draw a line without flinching. The day we moved into the new house was quiet. No celebration. Just me and my parents unloading boxes, figuring out who gets which room. My mom hung a photo of the 3 of us from 10 years ago, one of the few where we looked like a real team. She said she was tired of pretending things hadn't changed. We were different now, wiser, a little bruised, but whole again. A few days later, her old best friend sent me a message. Apparently my sister had been reaching out to anyone who would listen, people she hadn't spoken to in years, trying to paint herself as the victim. She said she'd been cut out of everything unfairly, that I'd manipulated our parents, that I'd stolen what was hers. Nobody was buying it. The friend sent a final message. "Whatever you did, she's completely alone now." I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about making sure the door she slammed behind me was the same one that stayed shut on her. She wanted control. She wanted leverage. She thought she could push me out and step in cleanly, smiling like she'd earned it. But now she had no seat at the table, no access, no name on any papers, no story anyone believed. And the 3 of us, we were home. Mini update. It's been a month since we moved into the house. Things have finally leveled out. My parents and I have a routine now. It's quiet, easy. We don't bring up what happened, not because it's uncomfortable, but because we've moved past it. They trust me again, and I've stopped waiting for the next betrayal. She's gone completely silent. No texts, no calls. I heard through someone that she's renting a small place, tried launching something on her own, but it didn't go anywhere. She burned every bridge she had. The trust, the house, the business, everything is locked down, stable, mine. I don't feel angry anymore, just clear. She thought cutting me out would get her everything, but now she has nothing, and that's exactly how it should be.